I'm Amy Jensen, and this is the Puppy Training Podcast, episode number 1, Facebook Live Puppy Q&A. This podcast is for people looking to train their own dog, either as a companion, therapy, or service dog. This is the Puppy Training Podcast, and I'm your host, Amy Jensen. Welcome to Facebook Live today. I'm going to answer some puppy questions. So today's a free Q&A. If you haven't met or you haven't seen my videos before, my name's Amy Jensen. I'm a professional dog trainer. I train anything from puppies to service dogs, therapy dogs. It's my passion and it's what I love to do. As I was training service dogs, I get a lot of questions and people asking me, hey, can you train a dog for me? And I would get this a lot. And I realized I can't help everyone. I can't train everyone's dogs. So I thought, why not roll out a program where I basically create a training plan for you and then you can train your own dog. And so that's where I came up with BaxterandBella.com. I've created an online puppy school. It works well for dogs as well, but I basically roll out a training program for you. I was at the gym this morning and I was thinking, I come to the gym and I can get I can go to a class and have a workout, or I can do my own workout. And I know for myself that if I go to the gym and I try to do my own workout, I just don't work as hard and I get lost and I don't want to think of what to do. I just want somebody to tell me what to do. Honestly, when I go to the gym, I don't want to have to think about it. I just want to work out. So it's kind of what I've done in the puppy world is I've created workouts for you. You don't have to think, what should I do with my dog today? What do I want to do for training today? I've really just rolled out an entire map for you of what to do with your puppy from day one, actually even before your puppy comes home. I help you set up your house. I help you get all the necessary equipment. And then I walk you through step by step. I basically hold your hand through the whole puppy training process. So that's what I've created for you. It takes all of the thinking out of it for you. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And I've saved you a ton of time because I've done all of the work for you. And I've rolled out a program that works. You get a nice, calm, well-behaved dog, which is what we all want, right? We want a dog that we can take places with us. We want a dog that we can do things with. It's not embarrassing to walk him down the street or to take him wherever we want to go. So anyway, I want to help you. So today I've thrown out there that I will answer puppy questions. So I've had some people throw me some questions and that's what we're going to go through today. So thanks for joining me. Why don't you go ahead and tell me where you're from? I would love to see what part of the country you're from and maybe tell me if you have a puppy already, what kind of puppy they are and how old they are. I would love to see that. All right. So let's go to our first question. Crystalline asked, my 9-month-old puppy played with a 4-month-old puppy the other day and made her cry several times. I feel concerned about this. Should I be? What can I do about this? And how can I help her play at the same level as the other dog she is playing with? Great question. I get this a lot about, sometimes when we watch puppies play, it can look a little bit scary. Maybe it looks like one puppy's dominating the play or one puppy maybe growls while they play or a lot of times people are just uncomfortable watching their puppies play because they use their mouth. So it looks like they're biting each other. But that's how puppies play. So the first thing I would say to you, Crystalline, is that you need to learn what puppy body language looks like and what appropriate body language looks like for a puppy that's having fun. So basically, if you're watching two puppies play, and this is what I do when I see puppies play, I'm looking for bouncy bodies. I want to see that the puppies are bouncing around. They're kind of noodly. Their bodies are relaxed. They're not stiff. Their tails aren't, stiff in a straight line. Their hackles aren't raised. So they're just nice and loose. A noodle's a really good example of how to look for that. So bouncy, noodly bodies. A lot of times puppies who are playing will do some dips, like their bodies will dip, or they'll do some play bows where their front paws go down. We call it a play bow. It looks just like a bow. Your dog is bowing or they're saying their prayers or something. So that's inviting the other dog to play. Another thing you can watch for is sometimes they'll take their paw and just kind of stroke the other dog. That's an invitation to play as well. You can look at their mouth. You want to make sure they have a nice relaxed jaw, that they don't have stiff jaws. Again, that goes with that noodly kind of just relaxed body in general. And then you want to make sure that they're taking turns. So if your puppy's wrestling, which puppies love to do, and yes, teeth are involved and biting's involved, and sometimes even some growling is involved, and it depends on your puppy. Some are more vocal than others, but you want to make sure that the play is being flip-flopped. So if one puppy's always on the ground and it's being pinned by the other dog, but it never flip-flops to the top and the other dog being pinned, that's probably, maybe a little alarm for this one dog might not be having such a good time. And you might be having a good time for a few minutes, but after several minutes of always being pinned to the ground, maybe not so much. So that's another thing that you can watch for. So you want to always also be asking, just, are my puppies, are they enjoying themselves? So this puppy, that your puppy was a little bit older and maybe making her cry. So if she, and I don't know exactly what that looked like, if she just kind of yelped or if she continued on for a few minutes, if she just kind of let out a little, like a yelp, then that might have been that your puppy was biting too hard and she was letting that dog know that, hey, that was too hard. That wasn't fun for me. And that's okay. That's pretty healthy for dogs to learn that bite inhibition. But if she's like crying, like whimpering, and it went on for a little bit and then, they reinitiated play and it went on for a little bit, that would be a little bit more cause for concern. So what you can do to kind of see how this younger puppy is feeling is you can put both puppies on leash. And I'd have your friend who owns this other puppy possibly hold her dog and you hold your dog and give them a little break, separate them for just a few minutes, and then let the younger puppy go first. Take her off leash and see if she comes back to your dog and tries to initiate play again with those play bows or other kind of body postures that tell us that the puppy wants to continue playing. If she doesn't go toward your dog and she kind of hugs her owner, kind of like, thank you for the break, I really appreciate that, then she most likely was not having as much fun and is probably done with the play date. So that's a good trick that you can use to just assess, are the dogs still having fun or are they not? So then the second part of this, because the first part of that was like, should you be concerned? And then the second part of this is, how do I help her play appropriately? So after you've kind of assessed, well, was it appropriate play or not? Was she just letting him know that he was biting too hard or not? Then I would just go through and make sure that the arousal levels aren't too high. So let's say that they start playing again and you notice that your dog's starting to get really animated and really just pouncing on her pretty hard. They're not flip-flopping anymore. I would de-escalate that play, and I would do it by just introducing some moments of settle time. So I would just call your dog off, even if you have to just go over and like clip a little leash on him or wave a treat in front of his nose, get his attention back on you. And then I train a settle. So I would ask my dog to do maybe a minute or two settle where and you can bring a mat if your dog is used to doing mat work. Or if you don't have a mat, that's fine. You can just use the settle command. And I would ask my puppy to settle. I would stroke him, touch his paws. This is a good time to just do all of that body handling that we do with puppies. Rub his ears, maybe rub his belly, see if he'll roll onto his back for you. Just kind of get him into a nice, relaxed state. And if all of that touching just makes the arousal level go higher, then just simply ignore your puppy for a minute. You can just sit there by him, and he can sit there by you, and we can watch the world go by for a little bit, and he can just chill. And then after a few minutes of him just relaxing and being calm, and you can tell when they are, because he'll either go into a down or he'll just roll over onto his side. You can tell when your puppy's relaxed or not. If their body's stiff or tense again, they're not relaxed. So I would wait for them to just be calm. And then I would say, okay, go play again. And then your puppy can go back and play with the other dog. And then every few minutes or so, I would call them back to you. This is just really good recall attention as well. Recall and attention, I should say. It's great training for your dog. And ask for another settle, chill out for a few minutes. Okay, go play again, and let them go play. So those are all some really healthy things that you can do when puppies are playing together. I would keep sessions kind of short. Also keep the settle sessions kind of short. We want your puppy to have fun, have a good time. And we want him to learn that, yeah, you might call him off for a few minutes to settle and relax, and he might get a reward. And then you're going to let him go play again. So this kind of plays into that 10-to-1 rule that I talk about a lot. But just making sure that he realizes, yeah, you're going to settle, then he's going to get to go play again. And then that level of arousal and excitement is not going to get so high that he's playing inappropriately with other dogs. So the last suggestion I have for you, Crystalline, is if that other little puppy, the 4-month-old puppy, chooses not to come back and play with your dog, perhaps she wasn't having such a good time, I would just try to find another puppy that you could set up play dates with your dog who's maybe a little more matched to your dog's play style. So maybe it's a larger puppy, maybe it's just a puppy that's a little bit older, maybe closer in age to your dog. That's also a good idea. In my program, you guys, I have a lesson 5.3 in puppy prep that talks all about dog body language and how to introduce appropriate dog-to-dog play if you're interested. Okay, so our next question is from Laura. And she asked, is it possible to teach a puppy a certain command so they will continue walking along with me instead of wanting to chase the neighborhood cats? Yes, absolutely. There is a possibility for you. Actually, several come to mind. So the first thing that you can do, or that I want you to do, is I want you to think in your mind, what do you want it to look like when you and your puppy are walking down the street and they see a cat? So this is a really important first step of puppy training, is you have to know what you want your puppy to do and what you want it to look like. A lot of people skip that step and they just say, I don't want my puppy to chase the cats when we're on a walk. Well, that's great and all, other than it's really hard to train that. So I want you to think, what do I want it to look like as my dog and I are walking down the street and a cat comes along? In my mind, what's the perfect scenario? What would my dog do when they see a cat? Once you've got that clear picture, then we can train. We can start making a plan. So for me, if I'm walking down the street and I have a puppy, I see my puppy walking by my side. I see them, oh yeah, maybe they see a cat and they look at it for a second. And then I see my puppy looking right back at me and keeping attention on me until I ask it to do something else. So this is called an auto watch. I call it this because I want my dog to look at me automatically and I want them to watch me. So hence the name auto watch. And here's how I do it. So this is going to take something super yummy. I use food rewards a lot because dogs are highly motivated by food. It's a really great way to train. So I use something possibly like last night's steak or some pieces of chicken from last night's dinner or ham or hot dogs, whatever your dog just loves. And I put some in a baggie or in my pocket or in a training pouch, whatever you have. And they're small pieces. It doesn't take a lot, you guys. In fact, the smaller piece you use and the more you can get your dog to work for that, the better off you both are. So I pull out my little doggy treats. I've got my dog on a leash and we're going to walk down the street. As soon as my dog sees this trigger, which in this case is the cat, I'm going to try to figure out my dog's threshold. So I want to know at what point can I be walking down the street and my dog will see the cat, but I'll be able to catch him before he pulls toward the cat. Or if you have a dog, some dogs might bark at the cat or whatever. In this case, it sounds like it's pulling. So I want to find that threshold for my dog. And then I'm going to try to work under my dog's threshold. So we're going to walk down the street. My puppy's on a leash. The dog sees the cat. The instant the dog sees the cat, my hand has a treat in it and it's reaching right down and it's feeding the treat to my dog. So I'm not waiting at this moment for my dog to look at me or do anything else. I literally just want to capture the second that my dog sees the cat and the treat is in his mouth. And it has to be fast. Timing is super crucial for this. And I'm going to repeat that over and over and over again, at least 10 times. So if you have a cat that you could help set up this scenario, or if your neighbor's cats are always out and you know what time of day they're kind of always out, it's a good time to go out and do some training. That really helps. So again, you put your puppy on a leash, you're walking down the street, you see the cat, treat goes right into your dog's mouth. So you're actually like putting the treat right, on his mouth. So he's eating the treat and it might just take several treats. Just keep treating. And then you can either turn and go the other way, or you can keep walking. I would just create more distance between you and the cat. You could also, you could also just stay there and let the puppy see the cat and you could just keep feeding. Cats are a little tricky and the cat might stay there for a long time. So I would probably with a cat, they see the cat, I give them some treats, we go do something else. You could wait for the cat to walk away, but who knows what this cat's going to do. Cats are pretty funny like that and they like to do whatever they want to do. So that's up to you. But the idea, the concept is the same. Whether you choose to walk away or stay, is that when the puppy sees the cat, the treats start coming. And then you want to do that to the point that next time you put your puppy on a leash, you walk, they see the cat, you kind of wait a second before the treat comes out. And you want to see if your puppy will look to you like, hey, I saw a cat. Where's my treat? Remember last time I saw the cat, you gave me a treat. And that's when you know you've captured that auto watch. And then from that point on, when my puppy sees a treat, or when my puppy sees a cat, the treat comes out after they look at me. So again, you start with the puppy sees a cat, I treat, puppy sees a cat, I treat. And then you want to repeat that enough that when you hold off on the treat for a few seconds, your puppy sees a cat and then they look at you like, hey, where's my treat? So once you've reached that point, that's the start of the auto watch. And from then on, when you're walking and the dog sees the cat, you wait for the dog to look at you. Then you could mark yes, because that's what you're wanting. You're wanting your dog to look at you. Once you've marked yes, or you clicker train, like click, whatever you do to mark your dog's good behavior, give him the treat. And then I would just do a U-turn and go the other way, or I'd continue walking. And I would practice that a lot. This is not going to happen overnight. This is not going to happen in one training session, possibly. It could. Depends on the age of your puppy and how long your puppy's been reacting to cats. But this is a really great one. I love it because it's automatic. I'm not having to command my dog to do anything. He just knows when he sees something and it's super exciting to him that it's more rewarding to look at me because food will come. Really yummy food will come. And then the cat problem goes away. The other option that I thought of was that you could train the leave it command. So and this can be generalized to anything. I start off by training my puppies to leave, let's say, a sock or something in my house. And then when you take it outside, you could generalize it to the neighbor's cat. I would not start by training the leave it command with the neighbor's cat. I would start with something a lot more boring than that. But once your puppy knows the leave it command, you can generalize it to cats. So when your puppy sees a cat, you could say, leave it. And then your dog knows to just ignore it. So the only difference really between the auto watch and the leave it is that on the auto watch, I expect my dog to look at me and give me his full attention. Whereas the leave it is simply ignore whatever I told you to leave alone. So he sees a cat, I say, leave it. He needs to take his attention off of the cat and we move on. So both are really great options for you. Feel free to do either one or even both. I think both could be valuable. In my members only area, in lesson 2.15, I cover the leave it command if you want to see that in more detail. Thank you for your awesome question. All right. Okay, Jody asked, how can I train my puppy to stay in the boundaries I've set for her? She runs off the second I take the leash off. All right, how many of you can relate to this one? Probably a whole bunch. Okay, so again, first of all, I want you to think, what do I want her to do when I take the leash off? What do I want that to look like? So this is actually a two-part question to me. First of all, the second I take the leash off, she's bolting. And then we're wanting the puppy to stay in the boundaries we've set for her. So I'm going to address the second part of that first. Like, what do I want her to do when I take the leash off? Like, really, what do you want that to look like? For me, I would expect my puppy to sit and to be calm. And then when I release or take the leash off, I would expect my puppy to stay there in a sitting position until I say, okay, go play, or release, or whatever your release command is, or your cue. So I would start training that because I don't want my puppy to just bolt anywhere or, I want to make sure that they're in a calm state of mind and that I'm releasing them to go play. Like, we're done here, together. You're welcome to go play and sniff and do whatever you want. And I would start with that behavior first. And then I would address, okay, she's off playing. I released her to go play. How do I get her to come back to me? So the first part of this, how would you train your dog to sit? Let's say that that's what you want it to look like, that you're going to take the leash off. I want my dog to sit calmly while the leash comes off. And then I want my puppy to stay there until I say, okay, go play. And then it's okay that she bolts, right? It's okay that she takes off because I released her to go play. So I use in training a lot what's called a long line. So it's either a 15-foot line, or I have a 20, I have a 30-foot line, and they're different weights. So if your puppy's small, a good tip is to go get some of that paracording. It's super thin. I just buy a teeny tiny carabiner and I tie a knot around it. It's a super cheap way to go. And I clip it to my puppy's collar so that I have a long line that my puppy can have some freedom from me, but that he couldn't run away and get away because he's still attached to something. So I would actually attach both to your puppy. I'd have a leash on your puppy and I'd have that long line just kind of sitting on the ground that your puppy could drag around. So when you're training this, the long line is going to be the reinforcement and kind of the management tool to keep your puppy where you want him to be. And then we're going to practice taking the leash on and off while your puppy is calm and in a sitting position. So I would get some rewards, some food reward, and I would have it in my training pouch again. I put my puppy on the leash and the long line. I would actually step on the long line so that you don't have to worry about handling that and holding it in your hands. And then I'd have my puppy on leash. I'd have the leash in one hand and my treats in the other hand. And I'm going to ask for my puppy to sit. I'm going to reach down and try to take off the leash. If at the point I start to take off the leash, my puppy gets animated or his arousal level is escalated, he gets super excited, then I simply stop and I say, and I just back up and I'm still holding the leash, but I'm not going to unclip it. So if my hand goes down to unclip that leash and my puppy's getting super excited about that hand movement, I'm just going to pull it back until he can calm himself down again. And you might have to spend, even a couple training sessions just doing that part where your hand reaches down to release your dog off the leash and he stays calm. That might take several sessions. So just realize the reality of that. But after your puppy sits and he's calm and you can take that leash off, then the second you release the leash, we want to make sure that he's in a sit stay and he's staying. So again, this is going to be a couple part process. You're going to have to make sure your puppy has a solid sit stay. And he knows that sit means for my dog, sit means stay, but if you say sit, stay, your dog can't leave until he's released. So I would work on that in a separate session. And then you're essentially going to be combining these sessions. So when you go to release the leash, your puppy's already in that sit, stay. He knows he has to stay. And I would start to release the leash. The long line's going to be there because if your dog tries to bolt, he's not going to be able to bolt. You'll be able to get him back into the stay until you release him. And that section might take a couple training sessions as well. So you're going to be spending some time doing the sit stay. You're going to be spending some time making sure that when you reach down to unclip the leash, he's not overly excited. You're going to be spending some time putting those two together to get that ultimate behavior where he's sitting calmly while you take the leash off and waiting for you to release him to bolt off and go play. Okay? That's the first part. The second part would be training a recall. So now that your puppy's been released to go play and he's off running around, how do you get him to come back to you? So again, I use the long line because you have to have a way of reinforcing this. If you don't have a way of reinforcing this, your puppy's just going to learn that come means nothing. That you'll say come, and does he have to come? Is there a way that, can he just run away? Does it matter? Is there a way that you can get him back to you? And so I always have a way to reinforce this when I'm first training this with a young puppy. So a long line is a fabulous tool to use. So the long line's on him, and then I use what's called the 10-to-1 rule. And I mentioned this earlier. I'm going to explain it here. So 10-to-1 means that for every 10 times that I ask my puppy to do something, he gets to just go play again. So it might be, let's talk about the recall, because that's what we're talking about. So I say, puppy, come. He comes to me. He gets a reward, grab his collar, he sits, whatever that looks like to you. And then I say, okay, go play. And I'm going to say, puppy, come, and do whatever I do with the come, and then say, okay, go play again, like immediately after, at least 10 times for that one time that I'm going to ask him to come to me, and then I'm going to clip the leash on, and we're going to go inside. Why does that matter? If you think about it, if the only time you called your puppy to you, you either got mad at him because he's been bolting off, or let's say you put the leash on every time you say come and you go inside, or you put the leash on and then you put him in a crate and you leave somewhere. Those are all kind of negative associations to your dog, and he's associating them with the come command. So a dog that bolts, more often than not, when I have clients that say, my dog just bolts, I would say, go back and retrain that recall so that your puppy learns when you call him back to you, he's rewarded and it's fun. He comes to you, he gets a yummy treat, and then you let him go play again. And that's a really fun, motivating game for your dog. That's what we want to train our dog to do. When we recall him, he's like, yeah, I'm coming. I'm going to come running. I'm going to get something yummy, and then I'm going to take off and go play again. So that's where I would start with the recall. I would guarantee if you spend daily time, I would say 3 short sessions a day with your dog doing this type of recall where you say, okay, go play. And then you call him back to you, okay, go play. And you do that over and over and over again. I guarantee you'll start to have a puppy that comes when you call them, and they're not going to be bolting every time that you send them off. So hopefully that helps. I have a lesson 2.1 in my program, all about come and all about the recall and all about the 10-to-1 rule and how to get your puppy to come when called so that they're not just bolting off. Again, with that though, if you're releasing them to go bolt, bolting's not such a bad thing. So it's kind of how you look at it. I think what you're asking more though is they bolt off and maybe don't come back. So hopefully that recall lesson helps you. All right, then finally, Christy asked, can I use your training tips on a dog who is not a puppy? Yes, it's never too late to train a dog. You can teach an old dog new tricks. All of those things that we have, you can definitely train a dog using these tips. So I call it puppy prep. I call it, I talk a lot about puppies, new puppy owners, but generally speaking, it could be any dog. So everything that I teach you in my program, everything that I teach you on these live calls, everything that I post on my social media as tips and tricks, they absolutely transfer over to any dog at any age. I will say, if you have a new puppy, I would really encourage you to start right away with the training process. Don't wait. The second your puppy comes home, you become a dog trainer because everything and every interaction you have with your dog, he's either learning something you want him to learn or he's learning something maybe necessarily that you don't want him to learn. So realize that the second your puppy comes home, training has started. And I've outlined a really great way to go about it to get a good, well-mannered dog that you'll be happy to live with for all of your life. So if you have an older dog and you're coming to me and you're saying, my dog has some bad habits, it's okay. I am totally happy to outline a training plan for your dog based on whatever bad habit if you feel like your puppy has and that you're wanting to focus on. I would love to help you. So don't give up at any age, whatever age your dog is, it can be done. All right. So it looks like, thanks for joining me, you guys. I was going to see if there's any more last minute questions posted. Sometimes I forget to check my comments. So, Scott, thanks for asking, when is it too late to start your program? It's never too late to start my program. That kind of goes along with Christy's question. So if I'm visiting someone's home who has a pet that likes to jump up on me, what is an appropriate way to get them to settle without causing problems with the dog owner? Ooh, great question. So if you have and this is from Christy as well. Thanks for joining us today, Christy. All right. So hopefully, ideally, like in an ideal world, we'd go to people's homes and they would realize that not all of us like dogs jumping on all over us. But that's not always the case. A funny thing about this question is a lot of times I tell my clients on the reverse that when people come to your home, it's harder to train that person to ignore your dog. It's harder to train the person than it is your own dog to not get them to jump. Because here's what happened, Christy. So a lot of times we go to people's houses and we'll see this cute little puppy and our voices will get high and our actions will get animated. We'll start to use our hands and we'll be like, oh, it's so cute, puppy. I love puppies. And see how high-pitched voice that sounds. And puppies love that. They eat that up and they just match you. They mirror that person. So they get all excited and they get all crazy. So a lot of times I'll tease clients. I'll say, your hard part is to train all the guests who come to your home how to appropriately respond to your super cute puppy. Okay, so if you're the person on the other end of it and you don't want that dog to jump on you, hopefully the owner or your friend will recognize your body language. So some body language that you can do as you go into someone's home would be to turn your back to the dog. You can cross your hands over you even and turn around. That's very clear body language to a dog that you don't like what they're doing. And it should be also very clear body language to your friend or owner that you don't like what their dog is doing and that you don't necessarily want to pet their dog or even see their dog. And I don't think that's a rude thing to do. I think that's a very easy action to just cross your arms and turn around. It should signal to both your friend and the dog that you don't appreciate the jumping. And then hopefully your friend will leash their dog and help you with that behavior. The other thing, Christy, you can do is send them to me and I will help them train their dog not to jump on you when you go to their house. All right. Thanks, Ryan, for joining. Crystalline, thanks for being on today. James, thanks for jumping on. I don't see any more questions. So hopefully you guys are doing awesome. Happy training. Have a great week. Get out there with your pups and do some good training sessions. And I'll see you guys later. If you have a question about anything you heard on this podcast or any other puppy training questions, visit my site, baxterandbella.com, to contact me.